Hi. For our novice class number 2, we have the most difficult things. You're welcome. So loose leash walking and stay can be the hardest things to teach a young dog who's learning manners. I thought I would just talk through a little bit of stuff first and then demo with the dogs. So with stay, you want to try to build duration before you build distance. Everybody wants to be 30 yards away from their dogs and then see them get up. If they're not staying with you right on top of them, why would they stay when you're 30 yards away? So for the first 2 weeks of stay, just stay on top of them. If you can move around a little while they're staying, but you're really, really close to them still, that's great. But don't expect too much. You have to work at your dog's level. My puppy is 4 months old now, and he is not great at stay. It's his last thing that we're working on. Duration is what we're all about, because just sitting still when you're 4 months old is really hard for even 20 seconds. So we're going at his level. I try to anticipate when I think he might be getting up. And before he does that, I release him. One of the tricks with stay is I always return to the dog and then release them. Everybody wants to say stay, leave their dogs, and then call them out of it. So you get a dog who anticipates the come and then they don't want to stay. My message to them is when I say stay, I'm always coming back to you first, and then you release. And that works out really well. It does help their butt sort of stick to the ground a little more. For some dogs, you can treat them while they're in the stay, and that works really well. For other dogs, if you're treating them while they stay, they get up. Depending how excited, depending how short your dog is. If you have a small dog, you have to bend down to them to treat them most of the time. So try it both ways and see. If my dog is in a stay and I give him a treat and I see him start to get too much, then I have to pull back from giving him too many treats. Every time I treat them in the stay, I'm going to remind him that's what we're doing. Stay. And that's my hand signal. Stay. So I will treat him, say stay. And then if I see him even flickering an eyelash, I'm going to say stay and then return to him. And then say, okay, and that's my release word. Your release word might be more interesting than mine. Some trainers say you shouldn't use the word okay because you use it casually in your everyday conversation. You'll say, hang up the phone and say, okay, and then your dog gets out of his stay. I haven't found that to be a problem in my house. I don't really care about their staying. They're staying in the stay that much. But you could be much more creative. You could say release, you could say free. There's an 8-year-old client of mine, a human, who says proceed, which I love. Whatever works for you. So that's the beginnings of stay, and then we'll do a demo for it. Also, you want to think about perhaps getting your dog to sit and stay when somebody comes over to greet them, right? So the Canine Good Citizen test, which is 10 items, may not be at the top of your list, but the skills that are in that list are skills that you probably want. You probably want your dog to not jump on people. You probably would prefer that they sit. We used to say off, which can be useful, but I'd rather give them something active to do. So if the dog is having a human come over to them, I can say sit. I can say stay, and then the human can greet them. Oh, hello, what a nice dog. And they usually will pet them, either scratch their chest or pat them on the head. And for the Canine Good Citizen exam, that's what they do. It's just a quick little scratch. I would prefer humans scratch their chest. The dogs would prefer that to their heads. But in the Canine Good Citizen test, we do one or the other because that's what humans do. Most people, when you greet them on the street, are going to scratch the dog on the head. They don't have to technically stay in a stay in the sit when you do the Canine Good Citizen exam, but they should not get up and jump on the person. And how do you practice that? You practice it at home and don't let them do it there. If you're coming in from the kitchen and the dog jumps on you, you have to stand still and ask for a sit instead. And the reward, no treat needed, is that you pet them. So if one human in your house lets them jump on them all the time, they might become jumpers all the time. So for a while, at least, you have to make sure that their feet stay on the ground. That's the only way they get greeted. You could also have them just stand up as long as their feet are on the ground for that stay. The other thing we're going to talk about in our demo is loose leash walking. And everybody wants their dog to be with them and not pull, and it's one of the hardest things to get. Why? Because it's not natural. We're asking them to do something that is not natural to them. We're asking them to wear a leash and walk slowly. As far as they're concerned, humans are really slow. Some trainer in a seminar I was at once said we're hobbling the dogs in a way because they're having to walk at probably half the pace at least than they would normally like to walk. They'd like to be in the next town when you're walking them, and we're so slow. So I try to get them used to it slowly and give them food for being beside me. If you wear a treat bag and there's food, why would the dog be anywhere else? If they're hungry in particular, you haven't fed them breakfast yet, and there's snacks, including their breakfast even here, they would be right next to me most of the time. Sometimes, you know, they're going to get excited by something they see up ahead. I'm just going to remind them, pat my side, remind them here, and treat them for being there. Just the possibility of food for some dogs is enough to make them walk really nicely. Others, you can wave all the food at them you want, and it's going to take a lot of practice first before they can do that. So start practicing inside where there are less distractions. Like with any other behavior, start with them in your kitchen, in your hallway, walking back and forth on your left side, either on leash or even off leash. If you get rewarded every time you're on this human's left side, then that's going to be the place that you want to be the most. If they switch to the other side, I'm just not feeding them. I'm going to send them back over here with a treat and show them this is where I want you to be. They will often pull a little ahead, a little behind, and that's okay as long as the leash is loose. It's loose leash walking, right? So there should be a smile in your leash. There should be a little J in your leash so the dog isn't pulling. I don't care if they're a little far ahead, a little bit behind, as long as we're working together. For little dogs, sometimes you got to get that 6-foot leash, because if you're only using a 4-foot leash, it's automatically pulling because you only have 4 feet to get to the ground. You want to have a 6-foot leash at least, and then just pick up the slack in your hand. We'll show that in the demo as well. So sometimes the dog will forge ahead of you. If you turn toward them, and if that's on your left side, if you turn left, then you cut the dog off a couple times, they're going to stop forging in front of you because they keep bumping into you. So left turns can be really helpful. I say left because it's tradition. You walk your dog on your left and you carry your sword or your rifle in your right hand. This is since Roman days. I'm listening to my dog snoring. Stop snoring. Thank you. I woke him up to stop him from snoring. It's tradition to have them on the left, but you don't have to have them on the left. I say they have to stay on one side, though, because I don't want them tripping you. If you want to walk them on the right, that's cool, but they have to stay there and not go back and forth. Some people will move their dog to whichever side the grass is on. When you're walking down a sidewalk, the tree belt is what we used to call it in New England. The left side, they'll walk their dog on that side, and then when they're coming back, they'll walk them on the right side, doing the same side. But I say too bad. They can still stay on the same side if you want them to. I just don't want them deciding for themselves that they're going to cross in front of you. So do we sniff on walks? Absolutely. When your dog is learning to be house trained, you can let them sniff at first and let them pee, because that's the most important thing. And then we go on a walk. You don't want to wait for them to start to pee, because you're going to end up rewarding the walking, probably the bad walking, instead of you peed and I'm going to reward that. And then we move on. So they get the peeing out of the way, they can sniff for that, and then they stay with me and they walk with me. I'm a little bit of a Nazi about it because I don't want to stop at every tree and every fire hydrant. I want to stop in the shade. I want to stop when there's a human on their way by. I want to stop when there's a dog coming by, or at least go off the sidewalk and into a driveway. That's when I think sniffing is cool, when I want to get them out of the way. I live near an assisted living facility, and so there are quite a few wheelchairs, automated wheelchairs that go by, and I want to get out of the way of those chairs. So I see one coming, and that's when I take my dog to the side and let him sniff. Let's say twice a block, I usually let them sniff. Depends on the dog's age, depends on their sniffer, depends how many dogs. I've got 4. I'm not stopping for 4 trees on the same block. So that's the beginnings of loose leash walking, and we'll demo that as well. The other thing that you might work on is watch. So you tell the dog to look at you, and you put a treat right up here between your eyes, and they look at you. Say you're on a walk and something's making them nervous. You could instead get them to focus on you and feel better about things. They don't have to sit still, but they just have to check in, and then they can look back at whatever is making them nervous. So watch is a really useful cue as well. And the last thing I want to talk about before we demo is shush. I have another video on barking, which you may need to see more to get more specific about it. But everybody's got a complaint about stopping their dogs from barking. I say it's their job to bark. They're allowed to say, hey, there's somebody at the door. It's very useful. It's what we all want, really. And then they get over it. So that's my hand signal. You may stop now. You treat them for the stopping, and before you know it, the treats have to go farther and farther apart from each other, and then the dog will just automatically know he's getting treated for the quiet. At first, if you hear woof woof, you say shush, and the dog gets a treat, you feel like you're just treated the barking. But that treat's going to get, the next treat's going to get farther apart, or shush shush, and they stop. And then you can wait to give a treat so that it goes a little longer silence. Some people will say to train the dog to speak on cue first, and then you can train them to only speak on cue. But I think for most of us, that's a very hard thing to teach properly. So I just start with telling them how to be quiet. They're allowed, thank you. If that, you want to use that phrase instead, and then they get over it. I have a 4-month-old puppy, so right now I have a container of treats on my table. It's just a ramekin with a cover on it. It's a coaster actually that I have over it, so that at any point if I need to grab a treat, I can open it quickly, and within a second of the behavior I want, I can treat him readily. That's just his kibble right now actually, and it's working just fine. If you're going to treat for quiet, you want to have ready. When the letter carrier comes to your door, you want to be able to right away treat them for the quiet. So be ready. If it means wearing a treat pouch around your house, go for it. You don't have to do it forever, but until they learn what you want. Try not to be louder than the dog, so it's not a competition. Who can be the loudest barker? And you'll be on your way. If you want to see more about that, do visit the barking video as well. Okay, let's do some demo. See what we can get out of the dogs today. Hello? We thought we would talk about walking. We could probably talk for days about walking. So let's just get some basics down. If you can get your dog not to chew on the leash, that's already an accomplishment. If you let it go slack, sometimes they will just stop. If I drop it, he may pick it up, or he may stop biting it. Sterling, come. Good boy. We're at 4 months old now. He's pretty great about walking, but he's got to be excellent because he's going to be 100 pounds. So I'm starting with the leash over my right wrist, and I'm holding the slack here. I'm not doing this, cutting off my circulation, perhaps even fracturing a bone in my hands if it's a big enough dog. Just holding it so I don't trip over it, he doesn't trip over it. Here, he's going to start seated beside me. This is the traditional spot, which is left. You can do it on the right if you like it. Just don't let him go back and forth because that's boring. He's starting in a sit because it's getting him focused. And we're going to walk. Here. I'm going to reward him when he's near me. Here. The word I'm using is here. Here. You might use the word heel. I'm going around in different directions because I want him to just get this down before we take it on the road. Here. Good boy. I'm feeding him with the hand closer to him rather than this way, because then he crosses in front of me. Good. Here. If he gets a little ahead, I'm going to let him up. Here. I'm going to turn into him a lot. Then he doesn't cross in front of me. Here. See how he's crashing into me? I'm kind of making him do it. But I don't want him to not crash, and then he won't cut me off. Here. how much she's feeding him. He's only doing it for food. Yes, so what? For now. You gotta feed him a lot. Don't be stingy. Trainers are very generous. Dogs like us better because we're generous with our food. Here, it's a paycheck. How does he know that this is where he's supposed to be unless I show him? There he is, right there. And if I stop, he sits, but you don't have to do that yet. Good boy. Here. Good boy. So my acronym for this is PIT. Practice in a boring environment. My yard is not that boring. My kitchen is more boring. First, if you can get it inside, great. Even without the leash. Let's see if I can throw it without him chasing it. Okay. Even if you practice in your kitchen or your apartment building hallway like this. Here. The point isn't the leash. The leash isn't doing anything. The point is that he's with me. I see a lot of people luring their dogs here, like this, to walk. That's okay. It's cheating. It's a bribe. But right now, if that's what your dog gets your dog to focus, fantastic. I'd rather reward him. Here. Once in a while, he's right beside me, and I'm going to reward him. Yay, good boy. Periodically this. So practicing in a boring environment, then when they can handle that, taking it outside. If you're going to walk your dogs on the street, which you want to do, I take 4 or 5 house lengths and go back and forth until the environment is so boring that the dog actually pays attention to you instead of everything else. Levels of training, start easy. So that's the practice. PIT. So the next one is pace. Sometimes we're slow and boring. I'm walking pretty slowly with him right now. And it takes coordination. You've got a leash and treats and a dog and treat pouch and humans watching you on the street. It's hard not to go slowly, but if he had his choice, he'd be going twice as fast as we're going right now. Or, conversely, you could go half that pace. All of a sudden, you're slow. Here. I just got really interested. Here. Here. No food. Here. Good boy. He likes this. Yeah, he's a good boy. And I'm going to praise him whenever he's next to me. There's never enough praise. It should be the noisiest thing you do, walking your dog. Yay, let's go! That's what I usually say to get started. Let's go! Here. Uh-oh, cross in front of me. Over here. Good boy. Here. Yes. Good boy. Nice and crazy. So those are your 3 P's. Practice in a boring environment, pick up your pace or slow your pace, and praise a lot whenever the dog's next to you. Be interesting. Woohoo is a lot more interesting than heel. You can say the word heel. To me, it doesn't make sense. He's not at my heel. He's with me. He's here. So we say here instead. You can say banana as long as you say the same thing. We start off by let's go. If he gets ahead, I'm going to go the other way. We used to stop. How boring is stopping? Stop and then wait for the dog to go, oh, the leash is pulling. I'm going to come back to you. Thank you for your attention. That's really boring. So moving helps a lot. They would rather have the momentum of the moving. So he's going this way. If he starts to pull, we're going this way. Here. He didn't get to go where he wanted. If he starts to go ahead, up. We're going back. Good boy. He doesn't have to stay next to me for real. He just has to have a loose leash. That smile and his leash that we talked about. He can go a little ahead, a little behind. Yeah, as long as he's paying attention once in a while to you. He's not going to stare at me the whole time. He shouldn't have to, just sometimes. But I'm going to be more interesting than those squirrels. How am I more interesting? I'm going in the other direction all of a sudden. I'm unpredictable. I'm fascinating, huh? Come. And good boy. The T is for treats. Use the really good stuff on the walks. Save it for that. I started him with kibble because he's a puppy and he didn't care. If your dog is that motivated, yay. But otherwise, that's when you break out turkey breast and hot dogs and bacon, whatever gets them more focused than what's out there. Walking them while they're hungry can really help. Let's talk about equipment. So he's wearing a Freedom harness. Sterling, come and show it. It has, he'd rather eat the avocado tree. It has a hook on the back and a hook on the front. And it comes with a special leash where you could hook both at the same time. He's really good. I haven't had to use it Thank God, because he's so big. I'm just using a regular leash, but I'm clipping it on the front, not the back. A dog, when you hook them to the back, will always pull more. I haven't met one that doesn't, except if they just don't care about pulling at all, like they're so, senior or too little to care. But the front clip is really key. Easy Walk harnesses also clip on the front. This one is particularly good for a big dog, a strong dog, because you've really got them, and it has a T-strap and they can't get out of it. Sterling, stand. I'm going to test it by looking at his elbow, and his elbow can't fit in there. That's how he would slide out if he wanted to. It's really hard to get out of this harness. It's nice and snug. The front could be a little tighter. He keeps growing. I keep adjusting it. They do stretch a little with time too, but it should be snug so he feels managed. He's not going to need it forever. He just needs it till he doesn't pull. He's really not even pulling yet, but he's so young and unpredictable that I'm just using a harness for now. Here. My Tanner was a dog from the streets, and he had no clue and was always scanning on walks and always looking for trouble, and had no idea that I was throwing cheese at him to try to get him to pay attention. It took him about a month wearing a harness like this, Easy Walk harness actually on him, and he goes, oh, I get this, and that was the end of it. Like, he's the best walker in the world now. It just sort of manages them until they get a clue. No prong collars, no choke chains. They're dumb. They don't do anything. All they do is hurt your dog, and it's not a crisis. You're not going to, most of the time injure your dog. But it's not teaching them anything. I want to teach him with this. I want to show him what I want rather than choke him every time he does something wrong. Especially choke chains. Most people use those incorrectly anyway. Prong collars they can get out of really easily. They often just unhook and your dog is gone. So just a 6-foot regular leash or the Freedom Harness leash. That's all you need. A leather leash can also be fine. I'm vegan. It's kind of gross. A leather leash is often really soft on your hands. And not a retractable leash. If your dog pulls to the end of a retractable leash and then he comes back to you, he's just learned to pull 20 feet and pull 20 feet. And he can go around a corner before you can and get in trouble. And he can slice open your hand with the wire that is the retractable leash. I have horror stories, but it could also wrap around your finger. Not good. So just throw it away. You can sort of teach a good dog to come when they're called, a good recall with a retractable leash, but there's really no need. And that big plastic thing you got to carry around, not good. That's a little bit about walking, and there's more in the later videos too about walking. Just try to make it fun. Try to make it so it's interesting. Sterling, touch. So my hand is this way. Yes, good boy. This has nothing to do with walking, but it could. We're just going to touch my hand, turn around so people can see. Touch. My hand to his nose, or his nose to my hand. Touch. Yes, he likes this. It's one of his favorite things. He learned it immediately. And that's one great thing. It's so easy. All he has to do is target my hand with his nose. My hand is this way, not this way, because this is stay. This is down. Some people do it like this, but then it looks like it's just beside you. I want it to be a clear signal, so I do this. If this already means something to your dog, you could use a fist bump, maybe, for his nose. Sterling, touch. He doesn't know this. Yes! That's kind of cute. Looks like I'm punching him in the nose. And it's really useful for many things. Agility, it will be useful. For service dogs, they can open the button at the automatic door for you by pushing it with their nose. You can have a dog ring bells to go outside by using it. First we do touch my hand, then touch the bells over my hand, then touch the bells at the door over my hand, and then just touch the bells. Sterling, leave it. Come. You do this with whales and dolphins. It's the same principle, except they do it with a ball on a stick. They can target and find the spot that you want. I'm using it for him now, Sterling, mostly to give him something easy to do. But if he's on my bed and he's like this and I want him to move over so I can get in the bed, I can tell him move, but touch. He doesn't know. Touch. Look. Sterling. Yes. And he moves over. I have him targeting me this way to get him to move because he's too big for me to keep shoving him out of the way. That's our touch. A dog who's anxious about things or wary of hands is really happy to have touch. It's very useful for that so that they're not afraid of little kids coming up to them. Can I pet your dog? Well, he knows touch. It goes like this. Oh, and then the kid can do it, and that's really great, and they're not on top of the dog. Good boy. So recalls, next level. If they're coming 80%, 90% in your kitchen, then try it on the road, outside in the yard, perhaps with a long leash on him. Sterling, come! He's pretty good, otherwise I wouldn't be asking for it. I'm not asking for sit, I'm just making it fun. I'm gonna wait for him to be distracted. Come! Sterling! Yay! And we're getting really enthusiastic because it's really important. Wait for him to get distracted. Come! Yay! Good boy! I'm not letting him get too far because it's harder to get him back if he goes far. Let's see, this is harder. Sterling, come! Yeah! Good boy! Work at your dog's level. If he's not coming in the house, he's not coming out here. Then try more distraction. Woo! Come! Yay! I don't care about a sit. I want it to be fun. Most of the time he sits anyway. It's just what he does. Come! Yeah! Good boy! Treat every time. It's too friggin' important not to treat. Good boy! And that head pivot, as soon as he starts to come to me, right there, that's when I would start praising him. Come! Yes! Good boy! That head pivot. Good boy! Don't wait for him to come to you to praise him. And make sure he comes nice and close to treat him. So if I needed to, I could grab him. And I'm gonna grab him. And we're gonna call it good boy. Thanks for watching. Good boy. Let's talk about the greetings. I want him to sit when somebody comes over to visit. So we're on our walk. Someday there will be no social distancing. Maybe we should always social distance, who knows. But somebody will want to pet my dog. The Canine Good Citizen test involves the dog just sitting still or standing even is fine as long as they don't jump on the person. Sterling, here. Good boy. So he's going to hang out with me. You can just sit right there. That's fine. And the camera person's going to come say hello to my dog. I can even treat him while he practices. Good boy.
Hi,
Stay.
doggy. Hi.
Good stay. Nice. Will you pet my dog on the head? Nice. Without eating her. Good job. And then she walks away. And that's all he has to do. You can't use a treat for the test. But for practicing, you can. He's had very little practice now with the pandemic going on with breeding. Sterling, come. I'll teach you. Come. Playing. His weakest thing right now is stay. He's 4 months old. It should be kind of weak right now. There are some dogs that surpass him in this. We're working on it slowly. So he's in the shade, and I'm going to let him stay in the shade because maybe he's not. It's a black dog. He's not going to want to stay in the sun. We're going to go in the shade. Come over here. Come over here in the shade. Sterling, come. Good boy. So, sit. Stay. See how close I am? Why not? I'm not going to be showing off my ego by going 30 yards away when he's just going to get up. Stay. Nope. I want you in the sit. That's cheating. Sit. Good boy. He's calm enough where I think stay. I can feed him while he does it. My Papillon gets too excited and I can't feed her while we do that. There's two ways. You treat him, remind him to stay while they're doing it. Nope. I think we have to practice the down first. Stay. And then I'm going to release him. Okay. You can treat him while he's in the stay, or you cannot treat him until right before you're going to release him from the stay. It depends on your dog how excited they get. Yes, down, stay. I'm going to go a foot back at a time. Oh, down, stay. It's not his thing yet. I can't do anything but stand on top of him and feed him. He really doesn't get it yet. Down, stay. Where he's getting it is at the door. I'm not opening that door when he's not sitting. Stay. He's starting to get it. Down. Stay. Stay. I'm always returning to my dog to release him. I'm not saying come. Okay. So, if he were in a stay, Sterling, sit. Down. Stay. And I walked 30 feet away, I'm going to still come back. You're still in the down. Come back. Even if it's 2 steps, and then release together. Okay, we walk away together. Not using COME. If you use COME, you get a dog who has a sucky stay and a sucky come. He's going to be like, I'm going to get to come now. She's going to call me. I love to come. I run. It's really fun. I don't want him to do that. I want him to think I always come back to him. So even if I'm over here, stay. I'm coming back and then releasing. Okay. That was a very bad demo. Sit. Stay. Stay. You didn't drop it. You think you drop it every time. Okay, so we're not going to teach you. Is that what you're saying? Sterling up sit. Stay. Nope. Stay. It's not a crisis if they move. Just a little uh-oh. Stay. He's the dog I can't feed. We just figured that out. Okay. I'm quitting while in my head. 10 seconds is plenty right now. He's 4 months old. The goal would be a minute sit stay, a minute down stay. Only 6 feet apart at first. Start with duration, then add distance. This is how I start to add distance. And I'm going to go for a second back this far, and then I'm going to come closer. But start with duration till it's solid. Everybody rushes it. If you rush it, you end up with a crummy stay. Right? Right? Good boy. Okay. One more thing you might add is watch. If my dog's not focused or if he sees something on the street that makes him nervous, I can have him check in with me. Watch! Good boy. Just wait for him to look away. And I'm going to reward him when he actually looks at me. He doesn't have to stare at me, just has to glance at me. Hard to tell. You can't really see his eyes right now. We're letting this hair grow. Watch! Yes! Good boy! So, if he sees a barky dog, then he goes, oh, I don't know, maybe I should bark back. I could instead say, watch! And he checks in. Watch! Like now. Good boy! For reactive dogs, it's really cool and helpful. He doesn't have to stare, it's just a glance. Good? Good. All right, thanks for watching.